Okay, now we're on to Exodus part 1. Israel increases greatly in Egypt. But the people of Israel were fruitful and increased greatly. They multiplied and grew exceedingly strong, so that the land was filled with them. Pharaoh oppresses Israel. Now there arose a new king over Egypt, who did not know Joseph. Behold, the people of Israel are too many and too mighty for us. Come, let us deal shrewdly with them, lest they multiply, and if war breaks out, they join our enemies and fight against us and escape from the land. Midwives are told to kill the baby boys when they're born. Midwives refuse. Then Pharaoh commanded the people, every son that is born to the Hebrews you shall cast into the Nile, but you shall let every daughter live. The birth of Moses. Now a man from the house of Levi went and took as his wife a Levite woman. The woman conceived and bore a son. His mother hid him 3 months, then made a basket for him. She put him in the reeds of the river bank. His sister stood at a distance to know what would be done to him. Pharaoh's daughter finds him, tells the sister to get a nurse. Sister gets the mother. When he grows up, he goes to live with Pharaoh's daughter, who becomes her son. He becomes her son. She names him Moses. Moses flees to Midian. Moses sees an Egyptian beating a Hebrew. Moses struck him down, hides him in the sand. Everyone finds out. Moses flees to Midian. Meets the Midian priests, 7 daughters by a well, saves them from shepherds. They bring him back to their father's house. 7 daughters. Father's name is Reuel. Reuel gives Zipporah to Moses as a wife. She conceives. Baby's name is Gershom. God hears Israel's groaning. During those many days, the king of Egypt died, and the people of Israel groaned because of their slavery and cried out for help. Their cry for rescue from slavery came up to God. The burning bush. Moses was keeping the flock of his father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian. The angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of a bush. God tells Moses to go back to Egypt to save them and bring them to the land of milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Tells Moses to say, I am has sent you. God lets Moses know there will have to be wonders performed, and that the Egyptians will give them silver, jewelry, and clothing. So they shall plunder the Egyptians. Moses given powerful signs. God gives Moses a staff that can turn into a snake, makes his hand turn leprous, and tells Moses to take water from the Nile and pour it out as blood on the dry ground. Moses says he's not eloquent. God tells him he will be with his mouth. Moses still asks God to pick someone else. God gets angered and picks his brother Aaron to teach them both what to do. Moses returns to Egypt. Moses took his wife and his sons and went back to Egypt. The Lord said to Aaron, go into the wilderness to meet Moses. Moses and Aaron gathered all the elders of the people of Israel. Aaron spoke all the words that the Lord had spoken to Moses and did the signs in the sight of the people. And the people believed, and when they heard that the Lord had visited the people of Israel and that he had seen their affliction, they bowed their heads and worshipped, making bricks without straw. Afterward, Moses and Aaron went and said to Pharaoh, thus says the Lord, God of Israel, let my people go, that they may hold a feast to me in the wilderness. Pharaoh says no. Pharaoh takes away their straw, but wants the same amount of bricks made. The foreman of the people of Israel saw that they were in trouble. Israel people get upset. Moses turns to the Lord and asks, why have you done evil to this people? also says, "For since I came to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has done evil to this people, and you have not delivered your people at all." God promises deliverance. God says, "Now you shall see what I will do to Pharaoh." Tells Moses about the promised land, Canaan, freedom from slavery. Moses tells the people, but they won't listen to Moses because of their broken spirit and harsh slavery. God gets Moses and Aaron to ask Moses again. Not sure what makes sense at the end there. The genealogy of Moses and Aaron. These are the heads of their fathers' houses. The sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel, Hanok, Palu, Hezron, and Carmi. These are the clans of Reuben. Okay. Moses and Aaron before Pharaoh. And the Lord said to Moses, "See, I have made you like God to Pharaoh, and your brother Aaron shall be your prophet." Then the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "When Pharaoh says to you, 'Prove yourselves by working a miracle,' then you shall say to Aaron, 'Take your staff and cast it down before Pharaoh, that it may become a serpent.'" Moses and Aaron go in to meet Pharaoh, and Moses' staff swallows up the sorcerer's and magician's staff. Still Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he would not listen to them, as the Lord had said. The first plague. Water turned to blood. Moses takes staff to the Nile, turns it to blood. Fish die, it stinks. Aaron stretches out staff, makes rivers, canals, ponds, pools, vessels of wood, and the vessels of stone bloody. But the magicians of Egypt did the same by their secret arts. Egyptians dug along the Nile for water. 7 full days passed after the Lord had struck the Nile. Second plague. Frogs. Aaron stretches out staff, and frogs were everywhere. But the magicians did the same by their secret arts. Pharaoh tells Moses to plead and take away the frogs, and he would let the people go sacrifice to the Lord. Frogs die. Pharaoh saw that there was a respite, and he hardens his heart. The third plague. Knots. Aaron stretches out staff, strikes the earth, and knots are throughout the land. Magicians cannot repeat and warn Pharaoh the finger of God did it. Pharaoh still hardens his heart. The fourth plague. Flies. But on that day I will set apart the land of Goshen, where my people dwell, so that no swarms of flies shall be there, that you may know that I am the Lord in the midst of earth. Pharaoh calls Moses and Aaron and asks them to sacrifice in Egypt. Moses replies that would be an abomination to the Egyptians. Pharaoh says they can go out to the wilderness, but not too far. Flies are removed. Pharaoh did not let the people go. The fifth plague. Egyptian livestock die. The Egyptians' livestock that were in the field, the horses, donkeys, camels, herds, and flocks, died, but of the livestock of Israel, the flocks died, but not one of the livestock of Israel died. Pharaoh hardens his heart. The sixth plague. Boils. So they took soot from the kiln and stood before Pharaoh, and Moses threw it in the air, and it becomes boils breaking out in sores on man and beast. And the magicians could not stand before Moses because of the boils, for the boils came upon the magicians and upon all the Egyptians. Pharaoh hardens his heart. Seventh plague. Hail. For by now I could have put out my hand and struck you and your people with pestilence, and you would have been cut off from the earth. But for this purpose I have raised you up, to show you my power, so that my name may be proclaimed in all the earth. Then Moses stretched out his staff toward heaven, and the Lord sent thunder and hail, and fire ran down to the earth. And the Lord rained hail upon the land of Egypt. Pharaoh says he's wrong, but ends up sinning again and hardens his heart. The eighth plague. Locusts. The locusts came up over all the land of Egypt and settled on the whole country of Egypt. Such a dense swarm of locusts as had never been before, nor will ever be again. Pharaoh ends up hardening his heart. The ninth plague. Darkness. So Moses stretches out his hand toward heaven, and there was pitch darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. Then Pharaoh said to him, "Get away from me. Take care never to see my face again, for on the day you see my face you shall die." A final plague threatened. And every firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sits on his throne, even to the firstborn of the slave girl who is behind the handmill, and all the firstborn of the cattle. The Passover.